Hello everyone. I hope you hear me. Welcome to 8th International Student Congress organized by Manisa Celal Bayar University. Today is the second day of the Congress and this is the first session of today's program. My name is Kahraman Süvari from Manisa Celal Bayar University and I am going to moderate this section. In this section, it is written 5 speakers, but we have 2 additional speakers from other section. So approximately 10 minutes each speakers will have, and each speakers after each presentation there will be Q&A section. Let's begin with our first speaker. Mashina Ahmadi, are you there? I think he not here. And okay, or the second speaker we can go. Megat Monk Sautu Mega Yahya from Ankara University. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, let's begin with you. Do you have a presentation, PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, I have PowerPoint. I'm sharing it.
Okay, you can share.
Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, you can see your PowerPoint. Please introduce yourself before starting. Yes, the floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Mr. Karhaman, for moderating our program today. My name is Megat Muhammad Shauki Megat Yahya. I am from Malaysia. Currently, I'm doing my master in the Sea and Maritime Law in Dehokam Ankara University. Today, I'm going to do a presentation on a topic an assessment on the effectiveness of the application of the international law in South China Sea. So let me introduce the South China Sea first to all of you. This is the maps of South China Sea. This South China Sea is a part of Pacific Ocean. It starts from here. As you can see, this is Singapore down there, up to the Strait of Taiwan. It has around 3.5 million kilometers square area. Actually, this area is actually the commonly accepted area. It means that legally there is no definition or there is no agreed area yet for in terms of legal. This is the commonly accepted area, and it is very rich with natural resources such as oil, natural gas, fisheries, and so on. And this fishery stock in South China Sea make up to the 10% of the world fish resources. And it is bordered by country like my country, Malaysia, Vietnam, Taiwan, China, Philippines, and many more. And there are so many issues here. For example, we have issue of piracy, issue of maritime terrorism, issue of pollution, and so on. And the biggest issue here is the issue of maritime delimitation. Where all the countries here claims the right to some part of the South China Sea. With China is the biggest claimant, where China claim almost to 90% of the area in South China Sea. Just like Turkey and Greece, they have problem in Aegean Sea. We also face the same problem in South China Sea. Now, moving on, how does the international law apply, how it functions in South China Sea? First, we look at the available international law or available treaties that exist in South China Sea. We look at before the establishment of the United Nations. First, we have Treaty of Paris, 1898. This is a treaty that have ended the war between Spain and America. And after their war has ended, Spain has agreed to free Philippines under its rule, from its rule. As a result of this Treaty of Paris, Philippines gained its independence. And then we have Treaty of Washington. This is a treaty where it gives the rights to the Philippines to choose its own maritime zone. From this treaty, Philippines has the power to set up its own maritime zone, to set up its own maritime area. And then we have Treaty of San Francisco and Treaty of Taipei in 1952. This is a treaty regarding Japan's occupation, where from these two treaties, Japan has agreed to free or to relieve some area in the South China Sea under its rule. For example, Treaty of Taipei, Japan has agreed to give freedom to the Taiwan under its rule, from its rule. And then we go on to after the establishment of the United Nations. United Nations was established in October 1945. And then this is the instrument that has been established after their formation. I will talk about this by dividing this instrument into two levels. First, we have global level instrument, meaning that the law applies to the whole world. And secondly, I will talk about the regional level, which means that the law only applies in a region area. For example, in this case, the law only applies in South China Sea, and it does not apply to other area. Let's look at the Charter of the United Nations. This is the charter where all the country in the South China Sea, they are the member of this charter, except Taiwan. Because of its status. Some parties said that Taiwan is an independent country, while some parties said that Taiwan is not a country, it's a part of China. There's argument between these two. So Taiwan is not considered as a party to the charter. And then let's look at the provision. We have Article 2, Paragraph 3. They state that all countries have to settle their international dispute by peaceful means. That means whatever happens, you have to find a peaceful solution to solve your problem. And then we have Article 33. They also state that you can use any other peaceful means, either negotiation, mediation, arbitration, or anything you want, as long as it is a peaceful way to solve your problem. For example, let's look at the case of Malaysia and Vietnam. We have, as I explained before, our country tried to claim maritime zone in this South China Sea. The same goes to Malaysia and Vietnam. We tried to claim territorial or zone for each of us. So rather than going to war or use of force, we tried to find a peaceful solution by sending a joint submission to the Commission on the limit of the continental shelf. Okay. This was sent in 2009. It's still ongoing. It's still not finished and still not decided yet, but it's still ongoing. We are still waiting for the decision. And then we go on to another convention, which is United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, which is known as the Constitution of the Sea. It has many provisions regarding the law of the sea that can be applied in South China Sea. Again, it also stated that countries have to settle their dispute in peaceful and have to choose a peaceful way and cannot use of force and so on. For example, in the case of South China Sea arbitration, this is the case between Philippines and China. They go to the Permanent Court of Arbitration to find a solution. It was done under the auspices of Annex 7 of the UNCLOS that give them a way to settle their problem by peaceful means, which is by going to arbitration. And then we have also provision that talk about the conservation of fisheries. We have provision that talk about piracy, and then we have provision that talk about the protection of marine environment and many more. And then we move on to the regional level instrument, where this instrument only apply in South China Sea. For example, we have the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia. Again, it also promotes peace, cooperation between the people of Southeast Asia. And if you have problem, you have to settle your dispute by peaceful means. And then we have the second one, Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea. This is a declaration where they try to promote cooperation and also friendship between the Asian countries and also the China. And then we have the ASEAN Declaration South on the ASEAN Declaration on the South China Sea. They also try to promote cooperation between the country in the South China Sea to fight piracy, to fight pollution, and many more problems in the South China Sea. And also we have dialogue that is conducted in here in South China Sea, which is ASEAN Maritime Forum and ASEAN Regional Forum Intersession meeting on maritime security, where every year all countries, not just ASEAN countries, but the non-ASEAN countries like Germany, Japan, Australia, they also join the forum where they try to have a dialogue and try to find a solution to combat piracy, to deal with pollution, and many more. And finally, we have also regional guidelines for responsible fisheries in Southeast Asia. As I said before, the fisheries stock in South China Sea amount to 10% of the world fish stock. So in order for that, we have to have a guideline like what fish can you catch, what fish should be protected, what fish should not be allowed to be caught, and so on. How many kilograms can you catch per month, and so on. There have to be a guidelines, and this is the guideline to help to protect the fisheries. And then we also have Singapore, the Resolution on Environment and Development. This is a resolution where all ministers in the ASEAN countries, they try to find and try to cooperate and to find solution in order to protect environment and try to develop environment in the South China Sea. Although from this explanation, we can find that the international law actually functioned and applied in a very good way in South China Sea. Despite that, there are so many people, so many parties who believe that China international law does not really function in South China Sea. And it is understandable because I think that there are so many flaws in the international law. And let's look at the flaw. The first thing is that there's a loopholes in the treaties and the convention itself. For example, the Treaty of San Francisco and Treaty of Taipei, it is the treaty that released that free some area from Japan, which is including the Spratly Islands, for example. However, this treaty, after they freed the Spratly Island from Japan, they did not explain which country will have the sovereign right, who will own the Spratly Islands. Because they did not state which country will be the owner of this island, the problem continue until today. Malaysia, Brunei, Philippines, China, Taiwan, they try to fight to have the right on this Spratly Island. This is the loophole. And secondly, we also have UNCLOS, the loopholes. It does not touch much on the maritime delimitation. That means that the biggest issue for law of the sea is country try to claim this area for their own self. However, UNCLOS, which is the constitution of the sea, failed to touch much on this issue. Also, not to mention, some wording in the conventions, they are very vague and they are very ambiguous. For example, Article 74, they talk about to achieve an equitable solution. Here, it does not explain what is meant by equitable solution. Because when you does not explain the meaning of equitable, that means that every country can have their own interpretation. The same Malaysia interpretation for equitable is different than China interpretation of equitable, because everyone will interpret according to their own interest. The same goes to the Convention on the Continental Shelf that talk about the special circumstances. It also does not explain what is meant by special circumstances. When it doesn't explain, people tend to make their own interpretation. And second flaw is the state rejected the dispute settlement decision. In the famous case of the South China Sea arbitration, the court found in favor with Philippines, and because of that, China rejected this decision and refused to follow this decision. Despite China being a member of the UNCLOS, which means that it should be bound by the decision of the court, still it refused to follow. So the act of China has actually weakened the institution itself. I mean, it's like also there is no action taken on China for not accepting the decision. So it's like it seems that the court has no function at all, because even if you make a decision, country will not follow your decision. And then we also have the same problem where regarding international organization also, where states also live in the dispute settlement organization. For example, we have Burundi, it has left the International Criminal Court, and South Africa, they have also the intention to leave the International Criminal Court. The act of this country has also weakened the international organization. It seems like if I have benefit, I will join you. If I have no benefit, I will not join you. Which is, in my opinion, has weakened the function of this court, this international organization. And finally, there is no united framework to govern South China Sea. As I have explained, we have so many treaties, so many laws that exist on South China Sea, but they are also scattered and they are not organized. And we can see that some treaties, they do not have enforcement mechanism. Let's say they only stated that what should we do, but they do not explain how should we do it. They do not have enforcement mechanism, which is a problem here. So in conclusion, based on my research, I find that for issue other than maritime zone dispute, let's say issue of piracy, issue of fisheries, pollution to protect marine environment and so on, all countries have no problem to come into every solution. They can come into one answer and they can cooperate together. The biggest issue here is the maritime zone dispute or the maritime delimitation. Because every country wants to claim their own maritime zone, it's very hard to find a good conclusion, a good solution. However, I believe that international law can still be improved in order to cover this problem. Because when humanity, we humans are evolving, we are improving, we are changing time to time. Therefore, I believe that international law should also improve itself. Before I end in my presentation, I would like to quote Shigeru Oda. He was an ex-judge of the International Court of Justice. He said that in the world where human needs are expanding rapidly, the importance of developing an appropriate international legal regime for managing the food and mineral resources of the world ocean cannot be overestimated. It means that human needs are expanding rapidly. Therefore, it's important for us to also improve the international law. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. South China Sea is one of the most important economic regions in the world. In his presentation, he began his presentation by introducing South China Sea. Then he mentioned the application of international law in the South China Sea. He emphasized that there are some loopholes in some of these regulations. So is there any question or comment for this first presentation? There is no question, I think.
Yes, sorry, Kahraman.
Okay.
Kahraman,
I am Umut.
can you wait?
Can
I speak?
Okay, hocam.
Sorry,
Buyurun,
Professor
Yes,
Ahmed. First of all, you. Sorry.
Okay. Yes, I'm Professor Dr. Ahmed Uçar. Yes, I am aware of this problem a bit, or I know something about this because of I have a course, international course. In my course, we study treaties at the same time. So I didn't catch the at the beginning parts of the presentation, but the last part, as far as I listened, Megat, I think, emphasized that international treaties sometimes was not applied correctly or directly. Some countries didn't obey the rules of the treaties. Am I right, Megat? Here, I think you mean that China is violating the rules of the UNCLOS, I think.
Yes, you are right.
So China is not obeying the principle of Pax sunt servanda, I think. You know Pax sunt servanda? You know it? Yeah, it means that, yes, in international law, there is a principle, it's called Pax sunt servanda. So in this, according to this principle, all the states, they are parties of the treaties, many parties of the treaties. When they contract a treaty like this, they have to obey the rules, or they keep their promise for the rules of the treaties. So here, I think I understood, as far as I understood, China, as a part of the treaty, didn't follow the rules of treaty, and then what can so how can this problem solve? I mean, so the other part should go to the international court, or what is the solution, do you think, Megat?
Thank you for your question. Yes, this is the problem, I think, because even though China refused the decision of the court, there are no enforcement, like there are no punishment or action has been taken on China, like the court, or I mean, probably United Nations, or I don't know, other body. They do not do, or they do not take any action at all to punish China. I don't know. I think this is also the loopholes, because there's no punishment provision to punish country that refuse to follow the decision. Because of that, there's nothing we can do. And I think probably the only solution is that not by international law, but probably by political. Like, for example, maybe country can come together to, I mean, put political pressure by blocking China or something. I don't know. Probably this is the only solution I can think as of now.
You're right. You're right. Because China is also a permanent member of the Security Council. If this problem was discussed in General Assembly and Security Council tried to take measures because of its veto power, I think there is no solution. The only solution is political, maybe. You are right. Thank you very much, Megat. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Is there any question?
You can continue.
Yeah, I have, Kahraman.
Okay.
I am a professor from Gençlerle University. I am Umut. First of all, thank you for your useful presentation, Megat. And you said that in your presentation, we have some shortage in the field of international law in respect to South China Sea. For example, states are leaving the dispute settlement organization and rejected the dispute settlement decision. So, all in all, what do you think? I wonder that, is there any risk of armed conflict between states in this area, in the zone?
Can you repeat your question? I didn't hear it.
So in your presentation, you said that the states are leaving the dispute settlement organization and state rejected the dispute settlement decisions. So is there any risk of armed conflict between states in this zone? I'm asking.
Okay. Thank you for your question. Based on my research, based on my opinion, I believe that even though the states are refusing to reject the decision, or they are leaving the international organization, I think that they will not try to go that far for the armed conflict, because this is where I found that in the end, although there are loopholes in the international law, somehow international law still function to protect the world from this kind of issue. I mean, country, they will reject international law, they will reject the decision, but they still make sure they are to follow some principle of international law. For example, not to go to war, not to use of force. This is my opinion. So in other words, although international law does not work wholly, partially it still work.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any question? Okay, thank you for your contribution, Professor Ahmet Uçar and Umut Kedikli from Manisa Celal Bayar University. So, if there is no question, let me introduce our next speaker, Nur Aziyet Izzat Abdurrahim from Halima Muhammad Ali University of Science, Malaysia. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, but Norizati isn't. She has an emergency, so I'll be presenting for her.
Okay.
Okay.
You can start.
Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes, we can see your slides.
Okay. So hold on. Okay, and the slides were prepared by myself because she couldn't. So, but the essay we did together. Okay. The title of this presentation is From Memoir to Film, Solomon Northup's Experience in 12 Years a Slave. Okay, Nur Izzati Abdurrahim, she's my PhD student and I'm her supervisor, Halimah Muhammad Ali from University Science Malaysia, and I'm attached to Manisa Celal Bayar University too. 12 Years a Slave is a memoir written in 1853 by Solomon Northup, the primary author of his own experience being kidnapped and held as a slave. Northup drew massive attention in the national political debate over slavery in the 19th century due to his first-person account of his 12 years of bondage that took place in the years leading up to the American Civil War. This memoir highlights a series of events in the life of a free Black American whose exceptional privileges were manipulated by the whites from holding a free status to owning none. Even though Northup did not admit that his writing aimed at discussing oppression towards Black Americans as the main purpose, the main theme that surrounds his memoir is slavery and the effects of capitalism towards Blacks before slavery was abolished in 1864. Thus, this paper therefore uses the slave narrative in the film adaptation by McQueen with the support of modern slavery theory and capitalism to discuss the plantation slavery and the impact of capitalism in early American history and the white treatment towards African Americans in the era of American slavery. Okay. So the United States of America today, as a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal, advocated slavery. As a result, the enslavement, oppression, and racial discrimination in America have left a significant footprint in most African American lives. Slavery also created authors who were former slaves who discuss the historical and social events which have really influenced the way American literature stands today. There are a small number of stories published from the slaves' perspectives. One remarkable work of a slave's memoir is written by Solomon Northup entitled 12 Years a Slave, which is being discussed today. Okay. Hence, Northup's memoir carves a unique path exploring the concept of a free Black turned slave as a character, along with the white suppression towards African Americans fully prodded by capitalism. His compassion in 12 Years a Slave shows that he had an audacious amount of empathy towards his former slave owners despite the horrific life that he experienced. Mainly, his perspectives were always to compare the things he experienced in captivity to the ones he knew before while living as a free man. Through this shocking twist, this essay will show the negative effects this law had on African Americans like Northup, who were born free, and how devious whites could be when it came to the unequal treatment towards African Americans in the United States. This essay will discuss the film adaptation of 12 Years a Slave, 2003, directed by Steve McQueen, with reference to Solomon Northup's book, 12 Years a Slave. And a memoir. Okay, what is a memoir? A memoir, according to Krauser, in his book Memoir and Introduction, 2011, is the depiction of the lives of real, not imagined individuals, which every so often referred to the non-fiction genre, and 12 Years a Slave is one excellent example of it. The definition of memoir by Krauser shows how life writing could emerge from either the authorial creations or real events. One function of a memoir is to immortalize, or at least to memorialize, actual people in real circumstances. Slave narratives flourished through the 19th century and expanded their reach in the early to middle 20th century due to the historical enslavements of African Americans before the Civil War and the 13th Amendment. This is extraordinary. Thus, Jagoda, in his book Memoir, A History 2009, claimed that sales in 3 categories of memoir that include personal memoirs increased more than 400% between 2004 and 2008. However, alongside such proof of the robust attention to the vibrant tradition of an African American memoir, the genre in fact continues to be misunderstood, if not downright criticized. American slave narrative and theory. There has been extensive discussion on American slave narrative. Generally, slave narratives are written to criticize slavery in terms of civil rights and humanitarian values. William L. Andrews, 2011, in the introduction of his book Slave Narratives After Slavery, stresses on the idea of freedom and citizenship for African Americans, which he began by saying that freeing yourself was one thing, claiming ownership of that freed self was another. He highlights some of the most prominent voices in discussing slavery, from Frederick Douglass to Harriet Jacobs, who were once the fugitive slaves and have represented the oppressed African Americans before the abolition of slavery in the United States. Before going further into the discussion of American slave narratives, it is appropriate to look at the background of slavery in the United States. Hisham Ali, 2016, argues that it is definite that the American slavery was brutally pure black slavery, and the debate over slavery was ushered during the era of the American slavery. As we shall see, this essay is the product of a very simple question: what is slavery? Lawfully, Article 1 of the 1926 Slavery Convention emerges as the benchmark for the definition of slavery in general. It reads, slavery is the status or condition of a person over whom any or all of the powers attaching to the right of ownership are exercised. Thus, the following excerpt by William E. Channing, 1968, is selected to define slavery. As has been stated above, Channing defines slavery thoroughly. It begins with the basic principle that is, a master owns a slave, and the slave is restricted from doing what he desires, let alone making a decision or saying his thoughts. He is forced to do the task given by the master without salary. And the description goes on. Okay. Like other social problems, American slavery appeared to many as an example of human tyranny that would be eliminated upon the realization of the highest ideal of independent rightness. The United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights states in Article 2 that everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitation of sovereignty. However, the dilemma of the slaves in the United States is not over. Okay? America is a capitalist society, was and is. In fact, the cotton plantation contributes to one of the birthplaces of America's low road approach to capitalism. Plantation slavery rose at the same period of America's capitalism, be known to the world of capitalism as the father of capitalism. Adam Smith promotes the benefits of his invisible hand doctrine to a perfectly competitive market. Okay. So we go to the film analysis. This section analyzes Steve McQueen's 12 Years a Slave. And in reading the data, the essay uses the initial standards D, P, and M, which refer to D as datum, P as speech, and M as minutes of the film scene. Okay, and we are looking at chattel slavery, and forced marriage. In this section, the essay discusses some database for film analysis. The discussion is related to the form of slavery and what idea of capitalism is exposed in this film. The film introduces us to the first form of slavery, which is chattel slavery. In datum 2, the film slave narrative found the correlation between the content of conversation and its relations with the concept of chattel slavery. Describe that there are some slaves who just arrived from Washington to Georgia. Okay, the cluster of slaves are enlisted and processed to be delivered to their master. So the entire procedure, this entire procedure is conducted to allow the slaves to be personal possessions of their masters. And then in datum 3, the narrative explains that the concept of chattel slavery. When Mr. Ford is offered a cluster of slaves, from Mr. Freeman, he instantly selects a pair of slaves who are Platt and Eliza. Mr. Ford selects both of them for two particular reasons. It is because they have good skills and are smarter than other slaves, which make them outstanding. Okay. So why slaves are selected and how slaves are selected. Okay. The second form of tyranny demonstrated in the film is forced slavery. The situation shows in datum 2 that the slaves work under oppression with the constant threat of violence from their domineering masters. Okay. And they have to work on a massive cotton plantation. When they fail to achieve the daily target, they would be tortured and flogged by their angry masters. The film also portrays the exploitation of forced marriage against female slaves. The form of slavery is unjust and biased because the master can marry the slaves without preparing a legal document. Okay. Based on this form of slavery, the master can do anything to their own slaves. They can even marry their own slaves without proper documents, okay, and which are called broomstick weddings. In the light of capitalism, the film interprets that this is a battle against the inferior classes, white versus black. And from this film, it is crystal clear that internal conflicts have occurred between the whites and the blacks, simply for the reason of defending the principles. Thus, the film exposes the realities of the capitalist institution during the African-American slavery. In addition to that, the narrative shows us that there are human beings that are as cruel as Mr. Epps and his wife that exploit others for economic gains. And in conclusion, 12 Years a Slave, both film and memoir, communicate to us that every individual needs to be treated equally regardless of his or her skin color and race. Slavery has harmed mankind. Slaves were manipulated by cunning owners in order to execute the economic plans. The movie also exhibits the reality that plantation slavery functioned violently. The stories of violence are told from Natap's perspectives, whose life was turned upside down after he was kidnapped by two white men and later sold to Epps and two other masters. Along the way, Natap did not give up hope to break his way out of the plantation because he knew that is rightfully a citizen of the United States and has a right to freedom and to walk in liberty on American soil. The gist of the presentation. And this is the
I think some connection problem with Halima Muhammad Ali. Halima, can you hear? Okay. She is not connected now. Maybe we can wait a few seconds for her comeback.
Kahraman, I think you can pass the other one because yesterday, now I think she's connecting.
She's connecting. Okay. Halima, are you there?
Yeah, I'm.
Okay. Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. So, is there any question or comment for this presentation? I think there is no question. So,
Okay,
thank you very much again. Let me introduce our next speaker, Ron Kwang, from National Institute of Development Administration. The topic is research on intercultural sensitivity from the perspective of globalization. Ron Kwang, are you there?
Hello, good afternoon. Yeah, can you see me?
Okay, you can start, please. The floor is yours.
Okay, my presentation. All right. Let me see how to do it. Yes, here. And then this one. Well, okay. Is it coming out?
Yes. Okay, we can see.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me to this Congress, and I'd like to talk about something. Talk about my topic: research on intercultural sensitivity from the perspective of globalization. And I'm from China, and I'm very interested in China's role in globalization since recent years. And intercultural communication is also my actually I'm majoring in international intercultural communication and languages. So this is also my specialization. I like to combine them together. Yeah. Okay. Let's start. Yeah, globalization actually is a process of interaction and integrating among people, companies, and governments worldwide. It has accelerated since the 18th century due to advances in the transportation and the communication technology. This increase in global interactions has caused growth in international trade and and the exchange of ideas, beliefs, and culture. Globalization is primarily an economic process of interaction and integration that is associated with social and cultural aspects. However, disputes and diplomacy are also large parts of the history of globalization and of modern globalization especially. But cultural globalization refers to the transmission of ideas, meanings, and values around the world in such a way as to extend and intensify social relations. And this process is marked by the common consumption of cultures that have been diffused by the internet, popular culture media, and international travel. And this has added to processes of commodity exchange and colonization, which have a longer history of carrying cultural meaning around the globe. Okay. Okay, and we can see globalizing processes affect and are affected by business and work organization, economics, social, culture, resources, and natural environment. Usually, globalization is divided into three major areas: economic, culture, and political globalization. This word globalization is used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economics, cultures, and the populations. It's brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services, technology, and the flows of investment, people, and information. And countries have built economic partnerships to facilitate these movements over many centuries. But this term actually gained popularity after the Cold War in the early 1990s, as this cooperative arrangements shaped modern everyday life. And we have a video here. Before I play the videos, we can see that today Americans rely on the global economy for many of the things they buy and sell, and to expand their businesses and make investments. So many products and services have become affordable to the average American through the coordination of production across countries. Okay, I have a video.
Hong Wang, the presentation is over.
Okay. It's about, I think, 10 minutes. Is it okay?
Oh, yeah, you can continue.
Okay. Yeah, I try to speed up.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for watching. This is my video, and I like to continue with my topics now. Okay. Okay. Actually, the history of globalization I already talked about, and I like to do more research work in my full text. And we can go to some charts I show here. I like to show them because we can see from the trade has skyrocketed in the past centuries. So from 1500 to 1900, actually the globalization is not the topic. But after that, especially after First World War, and especially World War II, and we can see the globalization has accelerated very, very fast. Yeah, especially in the 21st century, and it's almost going on like rocket. Okay, and some major economies also dropped tariff rates and kept them low. It means that these countries like Canada, United States, and EU member countries, states, and they try to make their goods and products from around the world. As we can see it in the video, they can buy different products from different countries, and they're living actually in the process of globalization very globally. Okay, and other countries like China, Brazil, India, and they are not so developed as those developed countries, but the tendency is similar. And now, we can see that the global supply chains also dominate the world trade. So the global supply chains today, 80% of the world trade is driven by supply chains run by multinational corporations, and trade in intermediate goods is now nearly twice as large as trade in final goods, and is especially important in advanced manufacturing like autos. So parts of autos actually are from around the globe. And China now has become the biggest source of US imports, as we can see. So the conflict or the dialogues and so on between the two nations actually are becoming more and more important. And this is why I like to pick up this topic and try to give a perspective from the global and from the intercultural communication. And we can see that globalization actually worked as a tool for prosperity and peace. It supports new job opportunities, but also contributes to job displacement. And it does not significantly change the total number of positions in the economy, as job numbers are primarily driven by business cycles and Federal Reserve and the fiscal policies. Nevertheless, Peterson Institute study finds 156,250 U.S. manufacturing jobs were lost net each year between 2001 and 2016 from expanded trade in manufactured goods, which represents less than 1% of the workers laid off in a typical year. So low-wage workers in certain regions are most affected. And many of actually working people today face lower earnings or have dropped out of the workforce. And bigger factors than trade that drive job displacements are labor-saving technologies, like what I said before, automated machines and artificial intelligence, and so on. And this now I like to give a sight into intercultural sensitivity. Actually, it's about the knowledge, awareness, and acceptance of other cultures and others' culture identities, and related to cultural competence. It's the skills needed for effective communication with people of other cultures, which includes intercultural competence, and sometimes regarded as a precursor of the achievement of cultural competence, but is a more widely used term than cultural competence. On the individual level, intercultural sensitivity enables travelers and workers to successfully navigate different culture with which they are interacting. It doesn't matter if they are in that target culture, or out of that target culture because of the globalization. And intercultural sensitivity counters ethnocentrism and involves intercultural communication and other skills. Many countries' populations include minority groups comprising indigenous peoples and immigrants from other countries and workplaces. Educational institutions, media, and organizations of all types are mindful of being culturally sensitive to these groups. So training is being incorporated into workplaces and students' curricula at all levels today, like this seminar or the class the class at the university about intercultural communication is going to be taught about going to be discussed at different levels. And the training of it is usually aimed at the dominant culture, but in multicultural societies like the USA, may also could be taught to migrants to teach them about other minority groups, and may also be taught to expatriates working in other countries. Okay, so intercultural diversity here actually includes demographic factors such as race, gender, and age, as well as values and cultural norms. Okay, this is the definition I already talked before, and we can see some factors actually. Intercultural sensitivity is also actually could be exactly be masked by the empirical include religion, ethnicity, national status, sexual orientation, and mental physical challenges. So past studies have identified a positive correlation between multicultural experiences and intercultural sensitivity. So cultural self-assessment is important because it's important to understand how one's personal actions and beliefs can affect others. And the most important is the one that they are usually taken for granted, like a stereotype. For instance, physical distance or touch during social interactions varies by culture to culture. Yeah. Okay. Okay. There's the importance of the intercultural sensitivity already talked, and let's have a look at some series here. One of them is from Bennett, and actually Milton Bennett was the first one in the world, the first scholar to create a model or framework designed to help comprehension of various stages of intercultural sensitivity. It's known as DMIS scale, and referred to as also as the Bennett scale. And this model is known as this model has been developed over several decades, since 1986, and included in the International Encyclopedia of Intercultural Communication. We can have a look at it. It's described a continuum which moves from ethnocentrism to ethno-relativism. The model includes 6 stages of experiencing difference. The 6 stages explained in the model include deny, defense, minimization, acceptance, adaptation, and integration. And we can see deny when people fail to recognize distinctions among cultures and consider them to be irrelevant. And then to move to the next step is the defense. People perceive other cultures in a competitive way or in us against them way. Then minimization, people try to assume that their distinct cultural worldview is shaped by others, or when they perceive their culture's values as fundamental or universal human values that apply to everyone. And then acceptance, people now began to recognize that different beliefs and values are shaped by culture. And adaptation, and then when people are able to adopt the perspective of another culture. The last one is the integration. Someone's identity or sense of self evolves to incorporate the values, beliefs, perspectives, and behaviors of other cultures. And we can see we have some, it's a continuum experience of difference from denial to integration. Yeah. It's this 3 stages are about ethnocentric stage, and latter 3 are about ethno-relative stages. And it's also the same, and we give some examples on how to behave, how to show them the differences between different stages. And then there are also the diagrams by some words and sentences to express the meaning of different stages. So globalization in the cultural communication, we can see that globalization has its historical limitations and objective difficulties, but this process is unstoppable and continues to accelerate, no matter people want or not. Due to the extensive use of the internet and the great improvement of transportation technology, different countries, ethnic groups, and regions are in political economic, cultural, technological, and other aspects. So the exchange between the two countries are more frequent than at any time in history. Such exchange can be expressed as cooperation and assistance, as well as negotiation and mediation, and even conflict and war. So it's making the world gradually from a diversified pattern with endless change and unpredictability, changing with each passing day. Although modern technology has shortened people's time and space distance, but it has not been able to shorten people's psychological distance. So because different countries and ethnic groups have different historical origins, social customs, national characters, national conditions, and politics. So they have formed their own specific cultural backgrounds. And these different backgrounds have brought different values, ways of thinking, and so on. Yeah. So it's important to think about how to communicate in the globe today, and how to view people from this perspective of globalization. And we can see that some people actually working and traveling abroad, and they have very strong feelings about the combination of this. It allows travelers and expatriate workers to successfully navigate a different culture with which they are interacting. It can increase the security of travelers because it helps them see things from the other person's perspective. An individual's understanding of another's culture may increase respect for the individual, allowing for more effective communication and interactions for managers as well as employees, and is vital in business or government jobs. And for workers, this intercultural sensitivity can lead to competitiveness and success when working with or within organizations located in a different country or in their own country with people from outside. These benefits are highlighted in the way this concept is defined. It is concerned with the consideration of how two societies and cultures operate, particularly with respect to how they are similar and different from each other. Being able to determine this in terms of thoughts, behavior, beliefs, and expressions among this makes it possible to solve problems meaningfully and act in a manner that is acceptable to all stakeholders today in a company or in some institution or organization. And I think I'm so far with my presentation, and I'd like to answer the questions if you have some. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Rongkwan. In his presentation, he began his presentation by describing the globalization process. He mentioned the rising of trade in this process, and then he explained the development of intercultural sensitivity. Is there any question or comment for this presentation?
Yes, Kahraman. I am again Umut.
Okay, Umut Hocam, you can.
Okay. Ron, thank you for your comprehension presentation, first of all. And when I heard your presentation that you have explained 6 stages of intercultural sensitivity, denial, defense, minimization, acceptance, adaptation, and integration. And I am wondering about the cultural dimension of globalization in terms of China and China, both China state and China people. Let's look into China closely. What can you say as a researcher and human? Please let you share your observation and findings on the positive and negative effects or aspects of globalization in China.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
Your people, sorry, for example, Chinese people accept easily globalization or not?
I think actually Chinese people and they are looking forward to globalization because they profit a lot from the globalization. When we look back to the Chinese opening policy since 1978. Before that, it was the Cultural Revolution, and Chinese society was very close at that time. But after that, especially after the Cold War was over, China is trying to become more and more involved in the global society, having a lot of cooperations with different countries, of course, with Americans a lot. But before China, according to this, in terms of this topic, intercultural communication, Chinese people, because of the limitations and barriers on language and cultures, especially psychological problems before, they are very conservative to traditional. They are not that open as people in Europe or in American or in other areas in the world. So I think Chinese people have low intercultural sensitivity in some ways. But I don't have statistic here because this is actually my research target, research goal. I like to do more empirical studies about Chinese students today, about Chinese young people today. I think in China, people can't always talk about globalization privately. Usually, the policy, the government already give the words on that, so people just follow the words. So how to combine Chinese own culture, cultural terms, cultural norms with that of other countries, of the words, of the rest of the words, it could be very problematic. I like to say to now, the stage is still in the ethnocentric stages, even not in the middle. Integration, it's very hard to achieve for now, but it can take some years. I don't know if I answer your questions, but can you understand me, sir?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Karaman, can I speak?
Okay, Ahmet Hocam, please.
Rong, thank you very much for your presentation. It's a good presentation, of course. So can we say something like this? After the 2008 or 2007 economic crisis, you know that many developed countries brought their production plantations to your country, and many foreigners maybe moved to your country by this way. So how this position affect your topic, or does this position increase the intercultural sensitivity in your country? And another one, I want to say, based on the experience, you know, we had a project on under the agreement of Mevlana. You know, the students exchange and university lecturer exchange. So does this position also affect in your university or in your country to increase the intercultural sensitivity? I mean.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Professor, for your question. Wonderful. I like to say about the first question. Since 2008, I think China is becoming more and more open to the world, especially the Beijing Olympic 2008. Let the whole world see China from a new perspective. After that, as far as I know, Chinese people are traveling abroad more and more. One side because they have more money, more income. The other side is it's easier. It was easier than before to get the visa for travelers. So I think due to the constant interactions between Chinese travelers, businessmen, workers, students, and other countries people, they are going to be have a high intercultural sensitivity for sure. But I like to, of course, to know more about details, maybe by interviews with them, some analysis on words or texts. The other question is about the MAFNA program. I know that exactly and personally, very experienced very well. I think it works well, but the problem is about the language. I think, English is still the first foreign language to Chinese students. When they want to go abroad for study, they like to go to English-speaking countries firstly. Although we also advise them to go to other countries like Turkey. Your university is also very famous, or other countries in Europe. But unfortunately, the coronavirus and the war now going to seem to be like some hindrance, going to be some like specter for this exchange putting forward. But I think this is going to be over soon. In 1 or 2 years, I think it's going to be back as before. After all, the communication in the between Chinese people and the outside the world is very important in my eyes. So I also encourage my students to go study abroad. Thank you.
Yes, thank you also.
Yeah.
For our students, especially, it was very good. But you sent two students also. They had a good experience from Turkey at the same time.
Yes, for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Can I ask one more question, Kahraman?
Yeah, sure, please. Yeah.
Okay, please.
Wrong. I heard my friends from China, Chinese government give some money to Chinese tourists to go abroad. Is it true?
Well, you are talking about now to give Chinese people now to go abroad for traveling?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I haven't heard about it.
Assist the Chinese people.
I think no, not really. No, I don't think so. I'm sorry, because now actually where I'm living now in my city, we are still having the strict lockdown, or not lockdown, but very strict policy against the coronavirus.
I am not talking now. Before the coronavirus.
Before coronavirus.
Okay.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, actually, before coronavirus, it was not difficult to go abroad, and even I already went to abroad several times during a year. I didn't notice any differences at that time between China and the outside world. But now it's a little bit different. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution again, Professor Umut Hocam and Professor Ahmet Hocam. So if there is no question, let me introduce our next speaker, Adrian Syan from Karabük University. The topic is küreselleşmenin yerel yönetimlerde özellik uygulaması üzerindeki etkisi, Endonezya örneği. Okay, Andreas, you have 10 minutes. You can start.
Thank you for the opportunities. A moment, I need to set the presentation. Is it? Can you see my screen?
Yes, but yes, we can see.
Thank you. First of all, I'm from Indonesia. Even though that my title in the PDF is written in Turkish, I'm gonna give my presentation in English. Yes, I'm from Indonesia. Right now, I'm master student in Karabuk University. This topic will discuss about special autonomy and the impact of globalization, especially to special autonomy in local governments in Indonesia. But first of all, I would like to explain what is globalization and why does globalization still matter until today. If according to Anthony Giddens, globalization is like a process of spreading customs, cultures, and ideological perspective worldwide. Globalization, like the integrations of all aspects of human life, from the economy, technology, and political system, even to cultural aspects. By proposing this question, why does globalization still matter today? I believe that globalization is still in the process of constructing an ideal world through the integration of technology, cultures, and international politics. However, this process is not perfect yet. Therefore, globalizations cannot be halted in the midst of its progress. If this development process is ignored because it's deemed unnecessary, globalization will have negative repercussions because there are still numerous unfinished projects. And I believe that this is why globalization is still a big thing to keep in order to help us developing the world together. With globalizations, everyone has the opportunities to change their life. The world becoming accessible to everyone's, competitions open for all, either you peasants maybe or a noble. But even though we do know how important and how much benefits of it, like it or not, at some point we have to realize that globalizations also has a deficiency. I mean, the bad things of globalizations. It's like the other sides of globalizations, because what is the bitter truth is the consequence of globalization. That is, globalization also bring damage to our life. Maybe, for example, in Indonesia, only some region, only some people, especially the elite people, can enjoy the globalizations. It's like two sides of the coin. Globalizations is sometimes solely enjoyed by the world's superpowers. I mean, like America or most country, Europe, Chinese, and a few big countries. While third world nations are limited to the role of spectators or even become victims of its harmful excess. This is why I believe globalizations cannot be understood partially. And this is next I'm gonna speak about governments and globalization. This have a connection with the Indonesian and how the governments of Indonesian work regarding globalizations. In the globalization program, like UNDP and International Monetary Funds, they propose to a third world country to create global governments. This idea of global government is structured so that policy optimizations and efficiency can be connected. an integrated government is urgently needed to ensure development in better directions. The development plan will be of higher quality with the interconnection and cooperation of governments globally. So with this, we believe that it's not the time for working alone, but working together, government to government. Then the program of globalization that United Nations carries is developing third world countries. This is maybe like some kind of propaganda that they believe the emergence of development programs by international organizations aimed at third world country is one of the momentum for development of globalization that involve governments. Maybe this is better. Next is regarding local government with special autonomy in Indonesia. I mean, this is a bit, for your information, is Indonesian is a unitary state. However, it applies the idea of decentralizations with special autonomy to its local government structure. So we are not federal, we're not like American federal state, but we have some like principle about federalism we adopt in Indonesia. Therefore, local government with special autonomy status have the authority to manage their regions with special law in exceptional circumstance. There are 4 provinces in Indonesia that receive this special autonomy. First is Aceh, Jakarta, Yogyakarta, and Papua. And each of these provinces has their own reasons why the central government gave them special autonomy. For example, Aceh. Aceh is because the people in Aceh need and have a lineage to Islamic law. So even though Indonesia is not a Muslim Islamic state, but in Aceh, the Islamic law is implemented. This is only working in Aceh. And for Jakarta, Jakarta is a capital city and they need a special management how they manage the regions, and so with others. This is maybe for Turkish people, it's seeing this flag is like seeing their own, I mean their own flags. But I'm gonna talk about this is special autonomy in Aceh and Papua. This is 2 of provinces that get special autonomy in Indonesia. The granting of special autonomy issued by central government to Aceh and Papua is a solution to the crisis of integration, because Aceh and Papua, they want to be independent from Indonesia. But right now it's already become one of the provinces in Indonesia and abide the law of Indonesia. And special autonomy in Aceh and Papua give access to the use of regional flags. This is before this flag, as you can see in the above, this is an Aceh flag. Before the special autonomy implemented, this flag is used by separatist group that want to get independent from Indonesia. They call it Free Aceh Movement. They also have the access to like formation of local political party and regional hymns, like, but it's not like a national anthem, like only a local anthems, local songs. However, this is an expression of symbol of sovereignty as an independent country. This is I'm sorry. I think I mistake this. This is not an expression of symbol of sovereignty as an independent country. The flag above is used as Papua Special Autonomy regions. And I will continue to why Indonesia needs special autonomy. First, from my research, I believe that is with special autonomy to the local governments, there will be equitable development and political stability, especially for Aceh and Papua, because before earlier in 2000s, there's still a conflict, military conflict with central government, and it cost a lot of life until now. I believe that is they want to independent, but the central government gave them special autonomy, so the political will be stabilized in that regions. Then the second is fulfillment of local rights and accommodating diversity. This special autonomy it accommodates a difference of characteristic in region, like Aceh with its Islamic law, Yogyakarta with its high cultural belief, and some of like Jakarta with its capital speciality, capital city of Indonesia. The third is improved governance effectiveness. Because of the conflict before, the government in these regions have a lot of difficulty to manage the governments, and it becomes ineffective. But if they follow the rule only from the central governments. And the fourth is conflict prevention and social harmonization. It's with this special autonomy, central governments believe that the conflict can be prevented, and the people, the social life will be more harmonized than before. And the last is maintaining balance with external power. This point has some connection with the globalization, when the external power, I believe this is international organization or international corporation, they coming to some special regions like Papua with its free port, because Papua has a mining and a gold mine, the biggest one of the biggest gold mine in the world. So they want to exploit that, but with special autonomy, they can prevent the external power to exploit their resource more than they needed. And
Andrea, excuse me, you have 1 minute left.
I see. Then I'm gonna make it faster. Thank you for reminding me. This is the impact of globalization to local governments with special autonomy in Indonesia. Maybe I'm not explaining all of it, but this the first point is there is a major change in how the central and local government works, from centralization to decentralization. And the second one is there is a massive democratization happening in special autonomy. These 2 points is a good thing, but the third it's a bad side of globalization happening in special autonomy in Indonesia. When clientelism and stronger capitalisms arose, the local power become weaker and capitalism become stronger. And this maybe this is, in my perspective, also negative sides when the smaller government role, because of the, as you know, that global ideas brought by international organization emphasize the limitation of government power and the need to involve the role of non-governmental actors. And then the next is, this is maybe a good point. Good point from impact of globalization is accelerated development. and improved quality of life, because the competition is often open for all. So if you want to be develop, get benefit, you need to improve the quality of life, especially from public service. And this is the last thing. I hope I still have some times. So from the conclusion, this is conclusion from my research is, with the globalization and the impact to its local governments, I believe that local governments have to be based on global perspective. So the regions with special autonomy sometimes get a paradox when dealing with globalization. Local government with special autonomy should have played more role in the development and fulfillment of regional needs. However, with globalization, this role has weakened due to strong global pressure. Therefore, the emphasis on development policy must be based on the characteristic of the region concerned. It's like endogenous development by using the potential of local human resource, natural resource, institution, and technology. Local governments must empower regional competitiveness through careful mapping with a global perspective, but still understand the potential and values of each region. It's like act locally, but think globally. That is all my presentation. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any question or comment? If there is no question.
Karaman, can I speak to Andreas?
Okay, Ahmet Hocam.
Okay, Hocam.
Yes, Andreas, thank you very much for your presentation. It's quite well an interesting subject for us to compare Turkish local government system and Indonesia local government system, I think. So you have main 4 region, and the local government system is operating in these regions as far as I understood. But they are, each of them have different laws and different kinds of implementation, I think. So in your system, yes, they have some autonomy, I think. So I think this is different from the Turkey, as far as I am trying to understand this. In your local government system, is there any intervention by central government to local governments?
Thank you for
control
the question.
over this. Over the governments, I mean.
Thank you for the question, Hocam. I believe that this is only for totally in Indonesia. Yes. We have 34 provinces, but only 4 provinces that get special autonomy. And sometimes there is a paradox, and problem when the government tend to intervene. Yes, we have some that problem. The central government sometimes they planning to change the law, maybe silently. As far as I can say, silently to minimize the special autonomy. But sometimes there is a battle. Maybe we can say a battle in legislations between the local governments and central governments on how they dominate each other with this power, with this special autonomy. And the answer is yes. There is a lot of maybe central government trying to intervene in the practical ways. Yeah.
So in that point, it's resembling the Turkish system a bit. Okay.
I see.
I want to learn more also in these 4 local governments, regional local governments. Can they levy their own taxes to people Is there any competence for the local governments in your system, I mean, or central government? You understand?
I understand. I understood, Hocam. Regarding the tax system, according to law number 32, if I'm not mistaken, the central government still have power on foreign policy, defense, security, justice, and monetary and national fiscal, and lastly religion. So regarding the tax, according to this law, local government still follow the central government rule about tax system.
Yes. Here, I mean, your local governments, like European local governments. In European local governments, most of them have a competence to levy taxes about their services or about their implementation. So they don't need to approval of the central government for this tax. But in Turkey, there is no right or there is no power for the local governments. Only central government can levy taxes according to the constitution of Article 73 in Turkey. But in your country, is it same or different? I mean, is it resembling to European system? Can they have their own competence to decide about the taxes to collect in the locally, or the central government decide on this one?
Okay, I understood the question. Thank you. For Indonesian, the case of Indonesian, it's maybe I can say it's partially regarding the tax system, how they spend it, it's still following the rules from central governments. But for maybe one part in Aceh, because I'm from Aceh, as far as I know, for implementing the Islamic law, they have this maybe some portions of the tax to implement the Sharia, the Islamic law. But it's only happening in Aceh.
Yes, I understood. Yes, thank you. So it is a bit same with Turkey.
Yes, a bit same maybe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Kahraman, you can continue with the other one.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for
and Dong Hongli, I think participated.
Okay.
Sorry,
I think.
Professor Ahmed, sorry, I have a question also.
Okay. No, I'm sorry, sir.
No.
I'm sorry.
No. Andre.
Yes, Hocam.
Thank you for your attendance to this Congress, because I am an advisor of Andre, so he's my MA student from Karabük University. And I want to ask you about the judicial system in your country. Do you have any Supreme Court or a kind of court in your country to resolve conflicts between regional and central governments?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Hocam. Actually, yes, we have. I mean, you read this court two. We have actually we have two in judicative system. In our judicative system, the first one that is focused only on I can say that a conflict between political parties that is regarding political will, political election, and the second one is regarding this legislation. These two court, I believe that when the local government have judicial problem, they go to this court. We call it mahkamah. Mahkamah maybe from Arabic word. Mahkamah Agung and Mahkamah Constitution. When local government have a problem with this disputes with central governments, they will go to Mahkamah Constitution, the court that will focus with this dispute, this conflict.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you hocam.
Okay, thank you Umut hocam again for your contribution. If there is no question, let me introduce our next speaker, Hakan Ömer Uslu. His topic is deservingness perception against immigrants in Germany will COVID-19 affect. Hakan Ömer, are you there?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
you can start, please. You 10 minutes.
Okay. I need to share my screen. Just
Okay.
a moment. Okay, so. Okay, can you see my screen right now?
Okay, we can see.
Okay. So, like Kahraman just said, I'm going to talk about the deservingness perception against the immigrants in Germany. So first of all, West Europe has long been an appealing destination for immigrants experiencing challenges with their living conditions in their home countries. Germany in particular has been a target nation for immigrants and guest workers since the 1960s, with a large influx of people from Eastern Europe and Turkey. Since the 2010s, the influx of immigrants has grown dramatically because of the deteriorating situation in the Middle East, particularly Syria. However, in welfare states, there is an issue of who gets what from the state. So one of the problems of the welfare state across Europe is that not everyone in these countries benefit the same from the state welfare state provisions. There are various groups that benefit from the welfare provisions, such as elderly people, sick people, unemployed people, and immigrants. When we start to examine these groups, the question of who gets what from the state becomes more apparent as we delve deeper into the field of welfare policy. Wim van Oorschot coined the most comprehensive definition of deservingness in 2020s. It was a study conducted to determine whether people made a distinction between those who deserve welfare assistance and those who do not. So Oorschot found 5 central deservingness criteria, later known as Karen. So the first creation, these 5 criteria could be listed as control over neediness, attitude, reciprocity, identity, and the level of need. So the first one is control over neediness, which means that people seen to be personally responsible for their neediness are deemed less deserving, or if at all. The second criterion is the attitude. Those in need who are polite, thankful, cooperative, and follow the society's rules are more deserving. Thirdly, the reciprocity refers to the individuals in need who have already given to the society or who are anticipated to contribute to the future are more deserving. The fourth criterion is identity, and identity means that those in need who are closer to us are deemed more deserving. And finally, there is the creation of the need level, meaning that the people in greater need are seen more deserving. So based on data from the 1990-2000 European Value Study, Van Oorschot discovered a common pattern for all 23 European countries involved, that informal solidarity is strongest towards older individuals, followed by ill and handicapped persons, jobless people, and immigrants, which are at the lowest. So, Germany has been a social state with a robust social safety net since Bismarck's time. The social security system began in 1883 with the creation of worker health insurance, and following the end of the Second World War, the concept of Germany as a social state was promoted via the creation of the fundamental legislation and the formation of the social market economy. However, with the introduction of guest workers in the 1960s, the question of immigrants' access to the welfare benefits has been a major priority for the German people. The Eurobarometer survey suggests that Germans' opinions towards foreigners residing in Germany are among the most unfavorable in Europe. And according to a recent research conducted by Hennig, finds indication of participants supporting a strong welfare state for the natives, but expressing less support for the migrants or non-natives. Nevertheless, there were other participants who endorsed anti-identity views, supporting the concept of universalism and fully rejecting the deservingness perception. However, this stance received little attention throughout the research. Germany is not really on the supporting side of the universalist ideas of welfare provisions, but as always, there is opposition to that side. Additionally, one explanation for support of deservingness perception might be Esping Anderson's theory of Germany being a conservative welfare state, and the concept of benefit is inextricably linked to the status and class, which immigrants lack, of course. However, the model Esping Anderson offers is neither permanent nor fully comprehensive, so it's bound to change. Indicatively, Martin C. Leib-Kaiser demonstrate that reforms have occurred in the German welfare state structure. So, as we can see, even before COVID-19, Germany has disputes over the deservingness perception of the immigrants. One of the clear indicators of this situation is Germany being divided into two camps: those who believe in universalism and providing assistance to those in need, regardless of whether they are immigrants or natives, and those who believe natives are more deserving than immigrants, even placing immigrants at the bottom of the deservingness perception. Immigrants were one of the most affected groups by the COVID-19 crisis across the EU, as they lacked social protection, had little job security, and worked in the country's lowest wage sector. This could be also clearly seen by the remarks made by Angela Merkel, stating that migrants are disproportionately affected by the coronavirus outbreak, with jobs being eliminated and language lessons being cancelled. Apart from the economic difficulties faced by immigrants during the COVID-19 pandemic, there are concerns about the slowing of immigrants' integration. One of the reasons for the slowdown, as mentioned previously, is closure of language courses, as well as the immigrants' limited employment opportunities only having in the sectors that are hard hit by the COVID-19 crisis. According to an article by Reuters, the pandemic is increasing unemployment among immigrants faster than among German natives, jeopardizing the country's previously successful efforts to integrate the record of 1.1 million individuals requesting refugee in 2015. So, Germany ceased accepting refugees in March 2020 due to the coronavirus, which was consistent with the EU's travel restriction at the time. Accordingly, the Federal Office stated that there had been a dramatic drop in registered immigration across Germany's borders, occurred mostly between March and December 2020. However, as the German population ages and the reproduction rates decline, Germany is and will continue to suffer in terms of labor force. As we know, Germany is Europe's largest economy and one of the world's largest economies. And to maintain this economic power, Germany requires a skilled and young labor force. But what Germany most desperately needs is high fertility rates. Since it is not easy to boost up the fertility rates instantly, according to the Federal Labor Agency, Germany needs to attract at least 400,000 skilled immigrants every year to meet the demands. So, to give an example to immigrants or the descendants of immigrants, Özlem Türeci and Uğur Şahin, the couple who co-founded BioNTech and developed the COVID-19 vaccine, were both children of Turkish immigrants who arrived in Germany under the Guest Workers Agreement. The German government quickly and proudly claimed these two scientists and bestowed upon them the Germany's greatest honor, Order of Merit, one could achieve in Germany. The study conducted by Oshot discovered that people who are likable, appreciative, and seen to adhere to the society's prevalent ideas are deemed more deserving. Thus, the migrants' acculturation strategy is very critical. Slavery Research, a Berlin-based research firm, conducted representative surveys respectively in 2017 and 2020, asking the public how they feel about Merkel's 2015 statement, the famous phrase of "Wir schaffen das," or which translates as "we can do it," following the country's acceptance of hundreds of thousands of refugees from Syria. The findings indicate that Germans are less skeptical after the fifth year of Merkel's statements of "we can do it," with an increase of 10% in the number of people who believe Merkel's statement was accurate and the government was capable of doing it. One possible explanation for this increase in the successful integration of immigrants since 2015, which was possible through both language and vocational training programs government initiated. This demonstrates that the survey findings supports one Orshot's assumptions that immigrants who successfully integrate into the mainstream culture are more deserving than those who are unable to do so. So, as a conclusion, research made in this paper showed that immigrants are among the most impacted groups as a result of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Immigrants lost their jobs because they have the least job protection and work in the service sector, which is the sector that hit hardest by the COVID. Due to the closure of language courses or continuation on online platforms, immigrants were unable to continue their integration processes into society and job search because of the closure of vocational training, which can result in their exclusion from society and fear of deportation due to their inability to earn living in these situations. As previous research indicated, identity and integration are important factors when we think about the deservingness perception of the public of the host country. If immigrants are unable to find decent jobs or integrate into the society in which they live, they will be deemed less deserving of welfare benefits by the public. Both reciprocity and attitude criteria are at risk as a result of the pandemic, which hinders the integration process and thus affects the public perception of immigrants' deservingness. But still, there are also promising results in terms of deservingness level of immigrants, which we can see from the survey conducted by Slavery. In so much in COVID times, public support for Merkel's decision to take in hundreds of thousands immigrants are also increasing. This increase could be attributed to the German government's success in integrating immigrants who arrived in the country in 2015. Additionally, the case of Türeci and Şahin demonstrates that Germany benefits from and will continue to benefit from immigrants and their descendants. Therefore, in the end, we can assume that if Germany can overcome the integration and unemployment problems faced by immigrants throughout the COVID-19 crisis, the public's deservingness perception of immigrants will not be harmed significantly. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Hakan, for your this comprehensive presentation. If do you have any question? Is there any question or comment? We have almost out of time, and we have one last speaker. If there is no question,
if I have enough time to ask a question to Hakan.
Okay, Umut Hocam, only short, please.
Okay, short. Hakan, thank you very much, first of all, for your presentation. And before the last slide paper, before the conclusion, you have written acculturation, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what does it mean? Please let you give some information to us, to participants. Acculturation.
Yeah.
Technical word, technical term.
Sorry?
It's a technical word.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to also explain it, but the slide was really getting longer. So, the acculturation is a kind of version of integration, but which lets the immigrants to be integrated to the host country, and this acculturation helps the people and immigrants to receive and also give some kind of how can I say, common culture to the host country and immigrants who are integrated or who are coming to the country.
I think I can harmonize these immigrants with the culture of the host country. Can we say something like this?
Yeah, it's like so it's more than integration. So acculturation is that the culture of the coming party is changing towards the host countries' cultures. So it's kind of your culture is basically becoming a common culture with the host country. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you very much again, hocalarım, for your contribution. Our next speaker, last speaker, is Donghong Li from Guangdong University of Foreign Studies, South China Business College. The topic is why will China not attend the nuclear negotiation? Okay, Dong, please, you can start.
Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. I'm not sure whether I can share my screen successfully. How can I upload my slides?
We see you can.
I don't see a button for uploading slides.
You can share your screen.
I share my. I'm sharing. Can you see?
Okay, now we can see. Yes, we can see now.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So this is my. Wait a sec. Let me open one more thing. Let me open my screen as well. Like, where's the other? Sorry. Just very quick. Where's the? I just want to open the Word version, which is where's it? Sorry. Still finding. Yeah. Cool. I found it. So very quick. Okay. So good afternoon, I think, and maybe good morning in your local time, everyone. My name is Donghong Li, and today I'm gonna talk about my paper, which is this one: why will China not attend the nuclear negotiation? So basically, this is a security issue and kind of very nuanced discussion as well. My paper is based on, so what I did before is I collected roughly 100 to 200 papers at the field, and they are roughly published from 2000 to 2022 within these 20 years. And then I kind of just selected the influential scholars, and I make some mind maps, as you can see here. But I haven't finished my project. Right now, I can only share a few, but just let me talk through this one. So for this topic, there are my studies based on several scholars' study. So today I want to talk about maybe just 3 of them. For this scholar, his article is China's nuclear buildup is about more than nukes. Yeah, so this is one of my like attention to write my topic as well, because he talked about nuclear weapons, he talked about non-nuclear systems, he talked about regional flashpoints, and also US-China rivalry. So for this, mainly he want to argue is that China's nuclear buildup is not about nukes, it's about deterrence, and also about deterring the US threat. And then for the next one, so here comes the concept of deterrence. Deterrence is proposed by I think several security scholars, and according to one of the scholars whose name is T.V. Paul, he said that self-deterrence is a nuclear weapons and the enduring credibility challenge, and he categorized them into 2 different categories. The first is the reputation for potential use of nuclear weapon, and the second is the reputation for non-use of nuclear weapon, which is the stance of China right now. So China holds the claim that it will not firstly use the nuclear weapon unless it was attacked by any country, so that it will give another country like a second strike. So right now, according to my research, the number of China's nuclear weapon is only substantial for maintaining a second strike for China. So it's for defense purposes. It's not for attacking purposes. And according to this scholar, Thomas Scherling, he proposed 3 different types of deterrence, like how for a successful deterrence to be functioning, you need to have a reputation in the past, and then your reputation in the past will generate a certain level of credibility, and then this credibility will, in the end, has a positive deterrence outcome. And this reputation in the past, by what he's mean is that like a country's actions to deter the other countries. For example, like US and Russia. Like the reason why US is not willing to step in and help Ukraine and officially claim a war with Russia is because Russia holds the largest nuclear warheads. Technically, Russia holds the largest nuclear warheads in the world. So it's very unwise for European Union, including US, to step in this war, because by then will be the 3rd World War. So this is everyone's concern. So they are not able to step in. So what they are trying to do now is just, I think we are somehow stepping into a agent war. So they are indirectly helping Ukraine, but they are not directly helping Ukraine, but like they are sending weapons and stuff like that. So based on this, right now I just made 3, but then in the later I will make more. So three scholars, based on their study, I proposed this paper. So this is the structure of my paper. There are more factors waiting for me to find out. But right now, I think there are 3 main reasons for China to not attend a nuclear negotiation with the US. The first and foremost, which is the most important one of China's national interest, is Taiwan issue, of course. So if Taiwan issue is not resolved, China, of course, will not join any type of nuclear weapons reduction program, right? To tie it up is foot and hand. And for the second reason, I think it's the asymmetry of nuclear warheads between China, US, and Russia. So if you make a comparison, of course, Russia holds the biggest warheads with 5,900-ish warheads in the world. And then US is holding 5,500-ish. And then China is only have like 3,000 something. So comparing to US and Russia, China, the number of warheads, nuclear warheads of China is minor. It's very minor. So this kind of asymmetry of nuclear warheads really is the status quo that restricts China from attending any type of nuclear reductions program. And the last one, I found out that the reason that I kind of summarized and is that from all those of previous study is that the unwillingness of the US to weaken its nuclear warheads by half, because China once proposed that if US are willing to like weaken its nuclear warheads, decrease it below 2,000, China will decrease its nuclear warheads as well. But then apparently US is not willing to do this. So and in my paper, I argue that unless these three main factors they are simultaneously solved out, China will never attend any type of nuclear reduction program. So this is my main argument. And right now, I just wanna like add some background information and maybe some key information about the nuclear weapons. So there are a lot of study about China's nuclear weapons because it's not transparent as US. So according to some estimates from the US part, so they are saying like by 2029, China will significantly increase the size of nuclear stockpiles to roughly 600 warheads. So and then there are some concerns also after the Cold War. Let me just briefly talk about this for my today's presentation. So after the Cold War, for China, right, the nuclear weapons has less utility than the conventional means of warfare. The warfare until the end of the Cold War, because China's nuclear weapons program, like initially, is not that strong as comparing to US, and it's not started from the national security reason. US started its nuclear program for the purpose of countering the Soviet Union. But for China, because Chairman Mao, he was threatened by the US at that time with the use of nuclear weapon. So for Chairman Mao, he really, at the time when he newly founded PRC, which is People's Republic of China, he really he kind of regard this nuclear weapon as a self-defense issue for him. So after the Cold War, China commits that its restrained usage of the nuclear weapons, and it's of course we know it's no first use policy of this nuclear usage. But also, which aroused to most countries' concern is that among these permanent 5 members of the United Nations, which are China, France, Russia, and United Kingdom and US, China is the only state that has increased its nuclear stockpile since the end of the Cold War. I think is for the majority of reasons because Chairman Mao was threatened by the US at that time, and then he really feel insecure about China's status quo. And then for this part, I just gonna manually summarize it, I think. So next one, I'm gonna talk about China's nuclear threat perception. In the academia, U.S. version of nuclear threat is being discussed. It's been overly discussed, but in terms of China's nuclear threat perception, is still minor. The amount of the study is still minor comparing to the U.S. one. So I think my research has its significance. And then according to one scholar, he says that the greater the power asymmetry is, the higher the level of perceived threat it will be. So which means is if right now the asymmetry between US, Russia, and China of the distribution of nuclear weapons is very large. So China will still regard the nuclear threat from the US as a very high alert issue for its security level. And I just want to quickly mention, summarize, mention several prominent scholars' view. So for this very prominent international relations scholar, whose name is Kenneth Watts, he proposed an idea of military threat. And then according to him, he said military threat consists of 5 different factors, which are military power, offensive capabilities, physical proximity, geographical proximity, and also in the end, the hostile intention. Right now, it's because of this nuclear deterrence that we don't have the Third World War, because US, China, and Russia, we have roughly kind of a big amount of the nuclear weapon. So this hostile intention cannot be aroused, because once your states are in a fair like kind of equal state, equal power, they will not wage a war to each other. So they are kind of afraid of the destruction by the nuclear weapons. And also, according to these scholars, Robert Jervis, he proposed threat perception. So according to him, he said there are 2 factors of threat perception, which are capability and also the intent to inflict harm. For China's side, U.S. capability to wage nuclear war is very high, because of a lot of factors, including Taiwan issue. So China still see U.S. as a threat, of course, a threat, to reclaim Taiwan. So of course, China will never decrease by any means, decrease its nuclear weapons. And also from China's side, U.S. still have the intention to inflict harm to its reclamation of Taiwan. So so this is the thing. And then right now, for the status quo, the U.S. nuclear inventory is more than 12 times greater than China's nuclear forces. So it's really unbalanced power. It's really unbalanced status quo. So right now, it's really unlikely for China to do any type of deduction of its nuclear weapon. And also, in the end, I want to talk about this. This is NPR, which is a nuclear posture review. This is the gradual changes chronologically in the U.S. side. So in 1994, the U.S. administration has published the Nuclear Posture Review. This is a primary document outlining U.S. Nuclear threat perception. Also, its nuclear weapons policy doctrine, its policy forces to achieve policy goals. And then right in 1994, a nuclear contingency over Taiwan is mentioned in this report. And then in 2002, China is listed as the still developing strategic objectives and ongoing modernization of its nuclear and non-nuclear forces in the report. So U.S. really pay a huge amount of attention to China in this report. And then by the end of 2010, which was the Barack Obama's administration, he places China in the report alongside Russia as a key nuclear weapons state in Washington's calculus, which he really in 2010, U.S. regards China as the potential threat of nuclear weapons. And then when it comes to 2018, which was under the Donald Trump administration, he takes a very assertive stance towards China, and he's mentioning about great power competition. So things is getting severe. I think for this part,
Dongkongli, excuse me, your time is almost over. Maybe last words and conclusions you can.
Okay, I just want to mention the conclusion is that after Donald Trump, he said our goal is simple, to ensure we can detect and destroy any missile launched against the United States anywhere, anytime, and any place. Right after this speech, U.S. swift its stance from military defense to military activeness. So it's very U.S. is taking a very active stance towards its nuclear weapons. So I think starting from this, China is well alert, and of course, still China will not deduct its nuclear weapon based on what I have been discussed above. Okay, thank you very much for your listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your this comprehensive presentation. Is there any questions? If there is no questions, I am going to close the section. We are really out of the time.
Can I speak, Karaman?
Oh, okay, Ahmet Hocam, you can.
Yes, Dongkong Li, thank you very much for your presentation. It's quite nice for a special international law and relations system. You mean here, I think, China's nuclear power reduction is dependent with the superpowers reduction, especially America, USA, and Russia have more than China's nuclear powers and nuclear weapons. Then that's why China doesn't go to reduction. Am I right?
Yeah. That's my conclusion. Yes. Yeah. Very, very correct.
That's true. So China in that position regards them as a rivalry, these two countries, because they have more nuclear powers and nuclear weapons, and when it is necessary, like Ukraine war, they can use this one, and it is a kind of threat to another countries. Then China is going on to keep or to increase their nuclear weapons, I think. Am I right?
Yeah. That's very correct. And also, even though Russia has not been mentioned as ally in any kind of document in Chinese officials published documents, but everyone knows like China is more or less is aligned with Russia. So against the whole West. So I mean, politically and militarily, China and Russia, they are kind of at the same team. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, I saw news in media 2 days ago. President Biden is visiting Korea, South or North Korea, I think, and he spoke there. If China invades to Taiwan, we are supporting the Taiwan. He says, I think.
Yeah.
So this threat to China, and so China is right to increase their nuclear power, I think, in that position.
Yeah, I think right now it's a dilemma because NATO are not willing to decrease its region, and then so that Russia kind of invade Ukraine because Russia thinks NATO is expanding its territory every year. And then the whole situation just got more complicated than ever before.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you, Ahmet Hocam, for your contribution again. Okay, if there is no question, I am going to close the section. Thank you very much for all the speakers and participants separately for your valuable contributions. The certificates will be sent to you. We hope that you will be involved our conference next year. Thank you again very much for all.
Thank you.
See you.
See you.
Thank you. See you. See all of you. All
all
participants. Goodbye.
Thank you for